I get where the administrators are coming from a bit. You know, don't avoid, you know, in some cases, by the way, they're trying to be nice and protect the teachers. But for many students, for me anyway, the one place where they're going to get an objective view of the elections, or of January 6th, or of other issues like this, isn't it going to be through a trained social studies teacher in a social studies classroom?
No, I meant with regard to the African American Latinx curriculum that's been taught for 3 years. Have we seen any problems arise where teacher complaints are made about teachers who perhaps, you know, didn't handle something the way that someone else thought? Sure.
I don't specifically about that curriculum. I think that, you know, I agree, it would be great to have it for every kid, but what it's not, what a beauty of that in a weird way is I know administrators that have said, well, Mrs. So-and-so, if you really are upset with this course, just don't have your kid take it. So in a weird way, that's actually a positive. It's not really, but that's one factor about not offering the course.
Okay, I'm told now we have till 8:30. If there are more questions. Great.
I guess I'll just ask for like the 30-second synopsis. I feel like I have a really good understanding of how this is being addressed at the high school level, but we really didn't get into at all what's happening. I have 2 kids in elementary school, and I think that's where the dialogue needs to start, right? If they're not interested in it now, they're not going to be interested in it in high school. So if you could just very quickly touch on how we're addressing this at the younger ages, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a me question. So the legislation, they match for all courses in terms of Native American Studies, AAPI, Latin American and African American Studies. And so that's K through 12 legislation. Now the law only requires that we include social studies instruction K through 12. You know, I was talking with I think Quan beforehand around, there is, sorry, this is not 30 seconds, as you asked for. There is a sort of a letter of the law and a spirit of the law. Candidly, the letter of the law does not set a very high bar, meaning if we are addressing anywhere in the K through 12 curriculum, we are technically meeting the letter of the law. We are not motivated by the letter of the law. I think we're motivated by the spirit of the law, which calls on us as social studies teachers to do more than that. And so our teachers are animated by continuing to evolve their curriculum to make it inclusive in age-appropriate ways at all grade levels. I think one of our biggest, one of the things I can speak to well around our 5th grade curriculum was with the Native American Studies unit that we developed under my predecessor 2 summers ago. This was really an excellent collaboration between the Historical Society of Glastonbury, 5th grade teachers across the district, to really better understand the Wandong peoples who occupied this geography and bring to life some really great lessons as part of a 5th grade unit. So that is not required under the letter of the law, but I think really follows from the spirit of the law, and so you will see that type of instruction in elementary schools in Glastonbury.
Not in Glastonbury, but you would be appalled at what's happened to social studies across the country in the last 20 years, the amount of time that's spent in the elementary school grades. The research I've seen that the time spent on social studies has gone down somewhere between 30 and 35% in elementary schools. That there's elementary schools in Connecticut, there's about 5 of them that have social studies for, say, a 2nd grader 5 times a week. There's districts that I could point to in Connecticut that have social studies for a 2nd grader for 20 minutes once a week. So I agree with you, social studies has got to start at the earliest grades. In many, many districts it's not. Part of the reason, very briefly, or a reason that's often given is testing. There's mandated testing in language arts. There's mandated testing in math. There's mandated testing in science. there is not mandated testing in social studies, and you're seeing the result of that.
Wow.
Yeah, in the midst of those realities, we are trying to build out some models for what teachers can do. One example is a unit that we're calling Places That Nourish. And so one of the things that is a feature of Asian American communities is grocery stores. And we're featuring grocery stores and the stories of the immigrants who started them as ways to introduce students at a very young age about immigrant stories in their communities and what other kinds of places that nourish them besides grocery stores. It could be cultural institutions or parks or other places. So the entry point is an inquiry about Asian American communities in Connecticut, but the outcome is about being curious about your surroundings and being proud of connecting to places, right? We have another program that we call My Story, Our Future, and it's going in, this fall will be our third round of doing this, but it's middle school students doing oral histories with their families. And so we have a Spotify archive where we upload their stories, we connect their stories to content standards in the social studies. And so the stories that they're telling connect to social studies content, right? And so that's another way that we think, we want students to be engaged in creating new knowledge, right? And that's one way to do it, is just to have them tell their stories that have been ignored.
Could I say definitively, if you want to be uplifted, listen to these two guys. I'm this woe is me, and all this. You can see that, as Jason is saying, it's not enough just to do the woe is me stuff. That's why we take the time to do a model curriculum. That's why he's working on curriculum for young kids. If it's not, we can't say every kid's going to get 50 minutes of social studies a day. But with innovative programming, we can open the door a little bit.
Can we go yet? It is 8:30 now. Would you stay around for a few minutes, you guys?